All right, we're going to start off with the hip and shoulder release that we did in class today. So I'll just go over what that is. We're going to start on the back, and then we'll start with the right leg, and I'll kind of give you the abbreviated version just so you can kind of walk through it on your own time. But just as a reminder, you start off with both hands on that leg, and then you make little circles, and your circles can gradually get bigger, and we're really trying to move the leg with the hands and not with the leg muscles. So take a moment, use your breath to help you really let that leg yield to gravity. And then after about 30 seconds, you can change directions. And again, you can start off with smaller circles and move to larger circles or whatever feels good. And we'll circle that way for about 30 seconds using both arms. And then we're going to let the leg fall out to the side and then use the hands to pull it back up to neutral or center. And we talked a lot about letting your exhales allow your body to feel really heavy and releasing any tension you might be holding anywhere. And then after that, when you feel like you're pretty released, again for about 30 seconds, or you can go for longer if you want to, we're going to cross ankle over opposite knee. And then bring your hands down by your hip crease and just push away. And you can kind of hold this 30 seconds to a minute, whatever feels good. And we're just trying to create extra space in that hip socket. And then I'll let that go and let my knees fall to the left to connect my right foot to the floor. And I'll relax and take deep breaths here for a moment. If you want a deeper stretch, you can walk your legs more to the left, like that. That puts a lot more stretch on the hip. And then in general here, we're taking deep breaths. We're trying to relax this hip towards the floor and just kind of melting into the floor. And then we'll come back and repeat all of that on the other side. And then for our shoulder release, we start side lying. Remember, you can put a yoga block under your head or your arm here. And then we're just going to start with tiny circles, reaching up toward the ceiling. Little circles. And then your circle will gradually get bigger and bigger. And this can happen over 30 seconds or over 5 minutes if your shoulder's really tight. So you can kind of take the time that it feels like it needs. There's really no correct amount of time to work with that. And then eventually my circle will be the biggest it can be, reaching in every direction, and my body will take a little bit of a rock to accommodate reaching in all directions. And we'll hang on to that for this range of motion for about 30 seconds, and then we'll start changing directions. And then our circle will gradually get smaller and smaller and smaller again. You can take the time that you need to until you get to the top. And throughout that whole exercise, you're thinking about letting your arm feel really heavy and long, trying to create more space in your shoulder joint. That's some Mac ASMR for you. And thinking about kind of like a pendulum swing, letting momentum and gravity really be the drivers of the arm. So I'm trying not to really put a lot of muscular force into it, but more so just letting gravity kind of help move my arm from my shoulder blade. And that's it for those. And then in terms of your nightly stretching, you're going to start out with a hamstring stretch. So we're going to be on the back. If you would like to grab a stretching strap or like a belt or a band or something to help, you can. So I'll demonstrate with and without that. The first thing you're going to do is bring one leg up toward the ceiling. And this is called P and F stretching. So it is a little bit more effective than just static stretching for releasing muscles. So to PNF stretch our hamstrings, we're going to start off by pulling the leg towards us. Now this is where that stretching strap or band or belt or even like a towel, anything you can hook around the back of your leg can be helpful if your leg is far away from your hand. So I can hook it and pull it towards me. And then I can also just use my hands if that feels like manageable. So I'm going to do that, but know that you can do other options. So the first part of this sequence of stretching here is just pulling the leg towards you. And then once you're at your furthest range of motion, where if you go any further, your knee will start to bend or your pelvis will start lifting up, anything like that, at that furthest point is where we're going to hang out. And then I'm going to drive my leg into my hand. So if I didn't have my hand resisting my leg, it would go like that. So I'm really pushing down with the leg, and it's normal for it to be shaky. And you'll hold that for about 5 seconds. And then you're going to release it and engage the front side of your leg, your quad, and you're going to use that to pull the leg towards you. So I'm not using my hands or anything. I'm just using my quad to pull my leg towards me. And then I'm going to relax and repeat that 2 more times. So we pull it towards us. We push away from us for about 5 seconds. Again, I'm kind of doing the abbreviated version. And then we release, use the quads, and pull it towards us. And you'll find that each time you do that, you'll be able to get your leg a little bit closer to you. Make sure you repeat that on the other side. So that's our first stretch, our hamstrings. Our second stretch is going to be for your quads. And so we're going to come into a lunge, kneeling lunge here. And then I'm just going to pick up my back leg. Now I'll give a modification for this in just a second. But if this feels manageable, you'll be here. Notice that if my weight's really far back, I can't really pick up my leg. I'm on my kneecap. It's uncomfortable. So you really have to shift your pelvis forward to pick up your back leg. And then you can hang out and stretch here for about 30 seconds. Again, you can make it an active stretch by pushing your foot away so I can resist with my hand and push down. If my hand wasn't resisting, my leg would do this and fall towards the floor. So I can think about lengthening my hamstring, or sorry, my quad, and then I can think about contracting my hamstring and pulling my heel towards my sits bone. So doing this action, it might not move very far, and my hand can kind of help that. And then I'll repeat that, pushing down for about 5 seconds, and then pulling in. And then I can just do a relaxed static stretch using my hand to pull my foot towards me. So you can do that series with your quads. And then if that feels difficult, you can also use a wall, or this is an ottoman, like anything that you can prop your foot up against. So if it's hard or uncomfortable to find this position, another option is to get yourself close to, again, a wall, a stool, a piece of furniture, and then you'll be kind of in this lunge position and pick up your back foot and prop it against whatever structure you're using. And I can just hang out and stretch here. If my quads are really tight, this feels like a pretty deep stretch. If you want more of a stretch, that's when you can walk yourself up here. You can use yoga blocks and hold on. I have one handy. So I can use my yoga block and hold on, or I can be close to a wall and use that to help me balance. So any of those are good options if holding the foot is difficult. And then next we have our pigeon stretches. So we're going to come 3 ways of doing a pigeon. The first way, and I want to specify actually first, you might not do all 3. One of them might feel really uncomfortable or really challenging to get into, and you don't have to do that. I'm just going to show all 3, and then you can see if you want to do all 3, or if one feels better than the others, that's fine too. First one is foot under sternum. So I'm going to bring my foot under my sternum, bring my leg back, and then my hands and this pigeon will help support me quite a bit. So that's the first option. Um, I can also be in a modified pigeon, which means my back leg is more in kind of an S sit. And then I'm going to use my arms or my hands to help me be up and over, sternum over foot. So that's the first one. This is usually the one that is really uncomfortable for people, so feel free to skip it if it's not happening for you. The second one is middle of your shin under your sternum. Again, use your hands to help you. You can do a bent back leg or straight back leg. So my bent back leg is here. If I straighten, I can sink into that a little bit more. And then the last position is knee under sternum. This one is hardest to do with the bent leg. You'll get the least amount of stretch there. So I would say try to get your back leg straight if you can, but if this feels like enough of a stretch, then that's also good versus this position here. Remember to repeat on both sides, and you can hang out 30 seconds to a minute in each position, and repeat up to 3 times. If one side's tighter than the other, do the tighter side an extra time. So maybe you'll do 2 times on your right side and 3 times on your left side if your left is tighter, or anything like that. Or you can also hold for more time. So like 30 seconds on the looser side, a minute on the tighter side. All right, next we're going to stretch out our lats and oblique muscles. So with this one, you can use yoga block, a stack of pillows, a thick blanket folded up if you need to. And our goal is to bring our head, like the top of your head, over towards the floor. So I'm going to think about keeping my sits bones grounded. We talked about those in class today. So if I rock back and forth, the 2 bones going into the floor on the bottom of my pelvis are my sits bones. So I'm going to keep those grounded. What that means is that it's not going to disconnect from the floor. So I can lean and my whole pelvis can tilt, or I can try to keep my sits bones down and still lean. We're doing the second option. So I'm leaning with the top of my head, folding over. My bottom arm is going to slide out. And this is where, if this is the bottom of your range of motion that's comfortable, this is where you can have something under you supporting you, like the blanket or the yoga blocks or the pillows. If it's comfortable, then you can go all the way down. And so I'm not just totally letting my pelvis tilt, which would look like this, right? I'm trying to keep my pelvis facing the floor. And I'm trying to think about letting gravity pull that left sits bone down towards the floor. And so you can hang out here and you can think about filling up the left side, that's my left side, of my rib cage with air. So that's really helping me stretch out those muscles from the inside. And I'll just sit here and take a few deep breaths, again letting the body get really heavy, letting the pelvis fall towards the floor as you exhale. And then if you want a deeper stretch, you can bring that top arm overhead like that. And then you can walk it on up and go to the other side. All right, this next one is a bit of a wild card. So I'll give you an alternative if you look at this and you think like that's not going to be comfortable, especially Kim for your shoulder. But Jess, this might be fine for you. And then, like I said, there's a standing alternative, but you can always try it and see what you think. So you're going to lay on your stomach. And then you're going to sort of like a scorpion stretch, but we're biasing the chest instead of the lower back, which is what we normally do. So normally in a scorpion stretch, and this isn't on my list because we have some other spinal rotation stretches, but of course you can always add it if you want to. So this is your normal scorpion stretch, right? So if we're trying to bias the chest with it, we're going to try to plant that foot and look up toward the ceiling. And then I can walk this arm up for a deeper stretch. And I can kind of hang out there. So I'm trying to think about getting my belly button up toward the ceiling. And again, you'll do that on both sides. If that is definitely not going to feel good and you don't want to try it, or if you try it and it doesn't feel good, You can also do something similar with the wall, which I think you both have probably seen before, where you just go against the wall, twist away, trying to get the belly button forward facing, and you'll feel a good stretch in your chest and your bicep there. You can also play with positioning of the hand. So if you flip your hand over and then walk it up the wall or walk it down the wall, that's always a good option too. All right, next we're going into the calves, and I always find this more comfortable with a shoe on, but it's up to you, truly. So the first calf stretch, again, you've probably seen this before, is going toes up on the wall and then pressing the hips forward. You can hold on for bounce if you need to get a little calf stretch going on. Um, Hold 30 seconds to a minute. If you want, you can drive your toes into the wall and then use the muscles on the front side of the leg to pull your toes back. That would be the PNF stretching version of this, similar to what we did for hamstrings. But if your calves are really tight and that's not super comfortable, you can also just hang out and stretch, or add in the PNF stretching on your second or third time of stretching your calf. I can explain that more. If that didn't make sense, feel free to ask questions. So that's the first calf stretch. The second calf stretch is in a lunge. So you're going to send the leg back into a lunge, push the hips forward. So I'm really trying to think about pushing my back heel into the floor. And foot alignment is really important. So I'll demonstrate from the front. So for my back foot, I want my heel to go on the floor and I don't want my foot to roll inwards. I want to think about lifting through my arch. You'll feel that as a deeper stretch for sure. And then again, you can hold 30 seconds to a minute, do it 2 or 3 times. And then we're going to bend the back leg and straighten the front leg. This changes the stretch to your soleus muscle, which is under your big calf muscle. And then same thing, hold. If this doesn't feel like a super deep stretch for you or you don't feel much here, then you don't need to do it. That just means that's not a tight muscle for you, and you don't need to worry about it. Not every stretch is for every person. um, so you can try that. You don't have to. For, in general, the static stretches, you'll hold kind of what I've been saying, 30 seconds to a minute. Do it 2 or 3 times. Same thing as I said with the pigeons. For any stretch, if one side's tighter than the other, hold it for longer or do it an extra time. Those are both good options. All right, this next one, you can use a foam roller if you want. It's not required, but it will give you a little bit deeper stretch. We're doing thread the needles from a child's pose, kind of slash tabletop position. Um, so I'll show it with and without the foam roller. I know you have one, so it's up to you if you want to use it or not, or if that feels like too deep of a stretch, you can do it without. So you're going to start off in a child's pose position here, and then I'm going to thread one arm under and on top of the foam roller, and as that happens, it's going to roll away from me. So I have a straight arm, and I'm really thinking about dropping, this is my left arm. I'm thinking about dropping my left shoulder into the floor. As that's happening, I'll get a deep stretch in between my shoulder blades. And then I'm going to roll it back under and bring that arm up toward the ceiling. So here's what the whole thing looks like. Now, if your back flexibility is a limiter in the shoulder stretch, you can also come from like an in-between child's pose and tabletop, which would look like this. So there's an option to have your supporting arm be straight or bent. So play around with those different options, and just kind of see what feels best for you. It might be that the first time you do it, you're tighter and you do the less intense version. And then the second or third time you do it is a little bit better. So without the foam roller, I'll show that just in case. So it's pretty much the same thing. The foam roller just adds extra space for your shoulder to drop so you get a deeper stretch. And if there's anything that I have offered that doesn't feel good, but you want to do something similar, let me know and I can send a follow-up video giving modifications. So I'm just kind of giving like general advice on what I think would be good for you too. And then we can kind of modify if any of the shoulder problems are causing pain or anything. And so next we're going to do our last stretch, which is going to be a seal stretch. So you're going to come with your weight in your hands and then drop your pelvis towards the floor. And I'm thinking about reaching the crown of my head up toward the ceiling. And also, we talk a lot about pulling the ribs and abs together. I want that to happen too. If I let my abs go, it puts quite a bit of pressure in the lower back. So make sure you are keeping your core engaged, but allowing that whole line down the front side to lengthen. So I'm bringing my head up toward the ceiling, and then I'm really trying to drop my belly button towards the floor. So we have this kind of oppositional pull of the head reaching up and back, and then the pelvis reaching down and forward. I'll show it one more time. And you can also play with shifting side to side. Sometimes our psoas, that really deep hip flexor, gets tighter on one side than the other. So if I shift, it kind of biases that. And again, if one side's tighter, feel free to hang out and stretch that side a little bit longer or hit it an extra time. But those are all of the stretches. That's kind of a full body stretching plan. If there are any specific muscle groups that you feel like you want to hit more or in a different way, let me know.